This is the Delay the Binge Podcast. Today's conversation explores addiction, the moments underneath the urge, and what becomes possible when we slow down and get curious instead of critical. Take a breath. You're in the right place. Today, I'm joined by Jo Weatherford. Jo is a TEDx speaker, educator, and recovery advocate whose work goes far beyond addiction as a behavior. She helps people understand what we're really reaching for when we numb out, and who we become when we stop running and start telling the truth. Jo, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. So today we're going to talk about addiction to substances and people, spiritual bypassing, and what it really takes to build peace after chaos. So Jo, for people meeting you for the first time, how do you describe what you do now and why it matters to you?
Oh, beautiful question.
Mm.
Now I speak about addiction, but more so I speak about recovery. And that is important to me because I can remember when I was trying to get sober, I didn't see a lot of people that were really thriving and happy. I saw a lot of people that had quit using,
Mhm.
but they didn't seem to be really enjoying themselves. And that was important to me. It was like, okay, if I'm going to get sober, I need I need joy in my life, because if I'm going to be miserable, I'd rather be high and miserable. And so my passion really is talking about the magnificent life that you can create. And I never miss it. I don't think about it. I don't ever go, oh my God, back in the glory days. Like, there's no part of me that needs that substance. And I'm human. Of course, I have bad days. I go through painful things. But life can be truly incredible when you heal what was causing the need to numb out. And so I love speaking about that. And then also I work with clients one-on-one and get to walk with them on their journey to recovery, whether from substances, people, whatever transition they're navigating.
You are incredible. Where were you when I was in my 20s? That's what I want to know.
I was not in a good place, maybe in jail. So,
I might have been right there with you. My book, From the Piney Woods, is a memoir, and it's
Mm,
all about growing up in East Texas, but being in a very abusive, dysfunctional type childhood. It really did a number on me in my young 20s and 30s. And so I
yeah.
can relate a lot to much of what you share with us. So,
Mm.
what part of your story, um, do you want to share today? It doesn't have to be a lot, just pieces that maybe set the tone for our conversation today.
Well, like a lot of people that find themselves caught in addiction, I had a weird childhood, and that some of it
Mm,
was so beautiful, was so magnificent, and then some of it was really, really difficult. I was molested at age
oh,
4. I had a really phenomenal family, and then addiction kind of hit the family. So I went from like a very stable, very secure, very loving home to one that was very chaotic and unpredictable, which really set the tone for a lot of my attachment issues growing up. Um, Intense fear of abandonment, and then also seeking out these really chaotic relationships that were sometimes amazing, the highest of highs, and then, of course, the lowest of lows. I also think the molestation at such a young age imprinted a lot of beliefs in what I thought about myself as far as sexuality, my worth, my value in the world, people pleasing, saying yes when I meant no. There was
mm.
so much that was like a computer program downloaded in me. And so it was fascinating. Getting sober was step one. And then I had this long journey, which I'm still on, of decoding a lot of the beliefs that then I took on as a child, and then, of course, during my addiction. So, yeah, I mean, those are some of the key points. I went to rehab multiple times, and I think that's important to share for anybody that's like, "Oh, well, I tried it, it didn't work." It's like, it may not, the
Mhm.
first time. So that happened. There was no amount of consequences. Like I said, I was in jail, and it was awful. I hated every minute of it, and I got right out and went right back to what I was doing. there was just no way I was going to stop until I did. And that's the other piece that I want to really communicate. Like, I have worked in the addiction field now for over 15 years, and I was one of the worst, if not the worst, alcoholic I ever met. So it's interesting. People commented on my TED Talk. I know you're not supposed to look at those, but I did. And they were like, "Oh, what'd she go through? I bet it was nothing. And look at her. She doesn't know about it was." And I'm like, no, I was so sick. I got a DUI at a 0.34. Like, where most people are dead, I was driving. So that, gives you some kind of idea of how advanced my alcoholism was, and multiple suicide attempts. So my my goal, though, and kind of giving that highlight reel, the worst moments, is like, and now it's really good. Like,
Yes.
all of that happened, and you can be completely on the other side of that.
Man, that is incredible that you are sitting here speaking with me on how it was for you. I too can do that, and sometimes it is surreal. When I look at my life now compared to what it was, I'm just like, what was I thinking? But it's the brain literally seeks out patterns, good or bad. It loves patterns. And so, like you said, when you go to rehab, you'd get out and you'd probably go back to what you were doing because the brain was saying, that's the lower brain, by the way. I've been doing so much research on that lately. The frontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain versus the lower part.
Yeah.
The lower part of our brain is the one that just temporarily wants to comfort you. Yes, go ahead and
Yes.
drink that bottle of booze because you deserve it. You need it to feel
Right.
better.
Life
And,
is hard.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard so much. So I've heard you say before that addiction to people and substances are different. So what do you mean? What are the patterns that show up across both of those?
Well, I love that you're talking about patterns, because it really is the same pattern. It's just the different hit, but
Good.
even that, um, when we use, we're trying to start feeling something or to stop, right? And
Mhm.
that's an addiction and non-addiction. Like, there's people that drink socially, they don't have a problem with alcohol, but they are going to drink to feel joy or stop feeling social anxiety, or you're looking to alter your state of consciousness to whatever degree, right? The addiction clicks in once we do it compulsively with negative consequences and can't stop. But we're always using substances or people to change our state of consciousness. So for me, the easiest way I can explain it is just my own journey. I had gotten sober off alcohol, and I was sober for a year, but I hadn't done the deeper healing work. I had just started to work on myself, truly.
Yeah.
And so then I met my ex-husband, and he just instantaneously became my drug. And there was this obsession, and there was, intense chemistry, passion, sex, all of it, right? Which was the highest of highs. All the same chemicals are released as with substances. And then there was this crash, right? Because it was not sustainable. It was toxic. There was a trauma bond that was bringing us together. We were literally together to work through our stuff, through one another. And so we would crash, and then that's the despair, right? And that
Mhm.
was the cycle. And it was no different than my addiction to alcohol. It was just an addiction to a person, to a feeling, to a pattern, to an experience of being in my system, chemically, spiritually, physically, where the highs and lows had completely taken over.
From I guess it's about 8 years of therapy for myself, I learned that when you grow up like we did with some type of, abuse or trauma in your childhood, we learn to read the room, right? And we go to the person that is not the most stable. We're drawn to the person that is broken like us because for me, I wanted to make the room safe, right? So I was going to go to the worst person in the room and try to control and manipulate that person so that he wouldn't hurt anyone else. And so it was a defense mechanism, but I've seen it over and over where when you come from some form of trauma, for some reason, we wanna continue that pattern.
Well, and it's homeostasis, right? And
Yeah.
organisms will fight to the dying death to stay the same, even if they're in horrible dysfunction, because it's comfortable. You know, you can survive it. You've adapted all those skills that work really well in that environment. And change is so terrifying. As you're speaking, I remember early on in my relationship with my ex, he looked at me and I asked him, I said, "Why do you love me?" And he said, "Because you understand my pain." And
Oh,
at the time, I thought like, "Oh my God, that's so beautiful." And now, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that's very telling and not nearly as poetic as I
yes.
would have liked to have thought at the time. And so, yeah, I think it's important too to remember it's like, especially when we're talking about relationships and manifestation and all of it, it's like we don't get what we want, we get what we are. So you have this idealized version of you that is existing out in the future, and you're like, "Oh, my person's gonna meet that version," but it's like the energetics that you hold now, the patterns, the emotions, the trauma, all of that, you get what you are, and we will find that mirror, you know? So it's so important to do the work first, then make those lifelong commitments.
Yes, I have my listeners love it when I talk about motivation. Motivation doesn't happen before the action. Motivation happens after we act. And but I want to go back to what we were just talking about. I kind of left that thought. But so how do you help someone tell the difference between love and trauma? Like they've been traumatized, like you said, they associate it in a wrong way. How do you help them see the difference?
I mean, so much of it is in the way that you argue or the way that conflict is handled. When something arises that needs our attention, we need to set a boundary, we need to have an uncomfortable discussion. When we're in a healthy relationship and we are healthy ourselves, we're able to do that without this great energetic charge. We're able to come to the table, say what we need, talk about our boundaries, fears, desires, hear the other person, compromise. There's just this it's how we feel in our bodies during it. There might be a little activation, but for the most part, we're in ourselves.
Mhm.
In these relationships that are very, very trauma bonded, the dynamics, the charge, the pulse, it's insane. It's so intense.
Yeah.
There's, screaming, there's insulting, there's stonewalling, people are leaving. It's almost like for my ex and I, it was like every 3 months, like to the day, there's patterns. You can only go so long without it getting toxic. There's lots of signs, and also the inability to get out of something. Like if you are in conflict all the time, that's a good indication that maybe this is not a solid match, but you can't leave. If you are compelled to stay in something that maybe doesn't feel well. So much of it is really exploring because no relationship is perfect. We're always going to need to compromise. Actually, disagreements are very healthy when they're handled correctly. But again, your ability to stay with yourself, in yourself, and communicate, effectively rather than this trigger, charge, heightened, cheating, blah, all the bullshit that comes,
Yeah.
you can see it. And I do believe that if you can help somebody get still enough, they know. They know the answer. Like, and they may not be willing to do anything about it. Like, there's denial, and I get that. We can really lie to ourselves magnificently. But
Yes.
most people are kind of more in that stage where it's like, nah, but you're not ready to do anything about it. And that's okay. But it's
Mhm.
powerful to even say that. Like, I know this dynamic is unhealthy. I know I am caught in some kind of toxic, and I'm not ready to to leave yet. There's more for me to learn here. And that's.
Exactly. That's what we teach in Delay the Binge. It's not just about food. We talk about how taking a pause, for some people, it may be 10 seconds, for other people, 5 minutes. But whatever gives you a pause long enough to realize what's really going on here. Where is the pain? What's causing me to do this unhealthy thing? And it could be overworking, overpleasing, drinking, food. Definitely food played a big part in my demise.
Yeah.
But I after researching a lot on you, I noticed you talk a lot about spiritual bypassing. So can you talk a little bit about that? Tell the listeners, more about that for us?
Well, like the biggest strategy and key, component of healing, I believe, is being really good at being able to sit in your pain. We don't want to stay there forever. Obviously, it's not anything anybody enjoys, but I mean that's my entire brand is this idea of hurt better. Like there is a way that we can learn to be with our pain, to sit in that activation that feels so horrific. And instead of reaching for the thing, the person, the drink, sex, whatever our thing is, when we can just sit in it and get curious. I heard years ago, I was at a Peter Levine workshop, and he said something that really landed with me. He said, trauma and creativity cannot coexist. And so it's like in those moments of real activation, is there any part of you that can get creative and compassionate and explore? What is this feeling? When have I felt it before? What age am I when I can tap into the remembering of my nervous system going offline like this? What is familiar about it? What do I need? And that's where some of the IFS or inner child work, can come online. And the way that I can explain it is this. If you picture yourself as a little 6-year-old that's like, hey, I'm hurting. What did you need from a parent that is loving and wise and present? And it's like, be that for yourself. Like, I love you and I'm here and I know you're really scared, and try to identify the emotion, because the more that we can understand it, befriend it, like instead of running from it, okay, you're here to serve me, you're here to show me something that needs healing within me. And also remember, the thing is never the thing. We're not upset we got a parking ticket, we're upset about control, fear of finances, whatever. There's something below the below. So getting curious with yourself. What is underneath this? What is the story I'm telling about it? It's like you can have two people that both go through a breakup, and one of them is like, oh my God, okay, well, that's hurtful, but it's not my person. Great. Now I can find somebody better suited for me. Right. And then the other person goes
Mhm.
through a breakup and it's like, oh, I'm worthless. I'll never find anybody. Depression just goes down into this dark place. It's like the meaning we attribute to things is really important. And the more we can dive into that and go, whoa, what is the story I'm telling? What is the story I would like to tell? But it's about telling the truth. Spiritual bypassing is the I'm fine,
Yeah.
or, find the silver lining. It's like, no, life is horrible and unfair and it hurts and it's not okay.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to sit in that and then be okay afterwards, but we don't want to
Mhm.
bypass the pain. That is addiction, but kind of the spiritual community has sort of packaged it like in Louis Vuitton and tried to make it look pretty. And it's like, no, let's not do that to one another.
It sounds a lot like what we talk about quiet depletion, and it affects everyone, but mostly women, because we're gonna ignore what we're really feeling in order to check all the boxes and get everything done. And then we're quietly depleting ourselves so that we're exhausted and we can no longer focus on who we are or any of our emotions. But I
Yeah.
love that spiritual bypassing because that's what saved me, I think. And I don't even know how I knew to do it, but naming the pain for some reason helped me deal with it and, you know, get rid of it. But then I
Yeah.
realized I don't wanna get rid of it. I wanna keep it. I wanna look at it in the face and I wanna use it for purpose. And so that's what I ended up doing. I couldn't
Mm.
stand the fact that all this terrible stuff happened to me and why didn't it happen to the girl down the street, but I ended up using it, making it worthwhile because I like who I turned out to be, and if I hadn't gone through all of that, then I would not be sitting here with you, talking to you about this. So,
Yeah, it's, too, for anybody that's like, I don't even know what I feel. I see this a lot with clients. Their nervous system has been in fight, flight, freeze for so long, they don't
yeah.
even know they're anxious until you get out of it. And then you're like, oh my God, I've been running on jet fuel for 35 years. So just know that's okay. And that's a common experience for a lot of us. For me, I didn't even know what I was feeling. I literally had to look at like one of those doctor charts of the different smiley faces that had emotions underneath it, and based on how big a smile or frown or whatever, I was like, oh, I think I'm anxious. I didn't even know what it felt like because I was just constantly in a state of disruption. So you may not even know what you feel when you first start this practice of like, oh, that's anxiety or, oh,
Mhm.
that's whatever. So just know that that is common too. And I just want to hit really quick on what you were talking about with women because it just touches me so much. Um, Elizabeth Gilbert said it so beautifully. She said, women will wilt away in the overgiving. And when we look at studies like women who are unmarried, without kids, they have lower rates of mental health, lower rates of addiction, they live longer, less ailments, right? Women actually sleep better when they're alone. Male partners sleep better when there's a partner next to them. Little girls thrive in girl only schools. Boys do much better when there's girls in schools as well. We do worse. I mean, it's just stats, right? Like that's,
Right.
and I mean, no hate on men, but it's like we do need to really, really protect ourselves and make sure that we're not just like, oh, here's all of me all the time.
Mhm.
That's not selfish. That's self-preservation. And it's a
Oh my
beautiful thing.
goodness,
And
yes.
it's great to role model that to other women.
Yes, and the more we talk about this quiet depletion, the more it's women are paying attention. I don't think they realize how much they're burning the candle at both ends, they're just burning themselves out, doing it all because they feel like no one else will do it. So they've got to get it done whether they want to or not. And so they're forgetting about themselves and their own identity and you know, just bonding with their own pain. And so they abuse substances or they eat too food, they abuse food, whatever it
Right.
is that allows them to continue in the fashion that they're doing it, they're just burning themselves out. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
came back to that.
Well, and it allows you to live a life that you're never meant to survive. It's
Yeah.
like you're out of alignment, you're in the wrong place, but I'm going to take this substance to allow me to survive in the wrong environment. And so it's really critical that we look at those things. I remember during my marriage at some point I got horrible IBS and I was hospitalized. Nobody could help me. Nobody knew what was wrong. I remember one time they were like rushing me in for surgery. They started, a fentanyl drip, like they were putting me under to go into surgery. I get the CT scan because they're sure I have a blockage. I am so bloated and distended and sick. They're like, you 100% have a blockage. They get the CT scan. They're like, there's nothing. They're pulling the IVs out. They're like, we don't know what to tell you. It was so crazy. And my body, everything in me was just absolutely rebelling against, staying in my marriage. And then it moved to insomnia, so what did I do? I started taking sleeping pills and then I get hooked on those because that's
Yes.
very on brand for me, instead of going like, oh, why can't I sleep? Like, so it's just really, really important that we, again, that compassionate curiosity of like, okay, the body is wise, the body is on my side, the body is trying to communicate. What is it trying to say? Instead of like, shut
Yes.
up.
And spe speaking of healers, I've been to so many doctors, and this was before I did anything about my health, my weight, or my problem with food. I mean, I was looking for them to find something horribly wrong with me. I mean, that's why I feel terrible. I had the IBS, I had high cholesterol, blood pressure, all the things. But they said, "Your labs look great." They couldn't find any reason. And then, of course, they would just say, "You either need to go get some counseling or you need to stop eating food the way you are. You're fat." And so they would never help me spiritually or mentally. And that is
Yeah.
why I'm so passionate about helping people understand how to figure out what's wrong, what's going on with the mindset and the heart before you utilize all these tools that are out there now. There's so many tools to control, like there's bariatric surgeries, there's GLP-1s, but the tool is not the answer.
Yeah.
And
It's
so anyway, the aha for me, it wasn't the integration of the transformation. It was I've completely lost my thought. Help me here. Anyway, so I'm just getting upset because I hate that people are searching and finding addictions, and they're also utilizing tools to do what they should be doing for themselves mentally.
Yeah, I mean, and those can be great tools, right? In conjunction with the real deeper work, it's like, do you love yourself? You know? And if you don't, do you like yourself? And if you don't, how do we start that process? Because that care and compassion and desire to get better is really important. I remember I was
Yeah.
at a workshop once and we did this exercise where it was really beautiful. You imagine yourself as a little girl, little boy at the edge of a pier and your feet are dangling off and you know, you're sitting there and then the person that you love the most in the world comes up and, like, grabs you from behind and just holds you and is like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, I love you." And it's like, just imagine that, right? And so,
Yeah.
you see your person and then he said, "Now imagine it's you." And I was
Wow.
like, "Oh my god, that never would have occurred to me, that it would have been me grabbing little me," you know? But that's
Yes.
kind of a good starting place is how do we get there, because we are all human and we have all done things that we are not proud of, and we are all a work in progress, and
Yeah.
I still constantly am like, "I cannot believe I just said that, like, that came out of my mouth," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 ayahuasca journeys, and I'm still an asshole sometimes, so it's like, we do the best that we can do, you know?
I do that too. Yes, yes, yes. Now, I've heard you say that something I love, 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 and I'm trying to remember it exactly, where you said, "Big openings are real, but the real work is what happens after." So, what does integration look like when the camera's off and real life hits?
Yeah, and I mean, those are the moments, right? And it's, we can have these tremendous aha moments, right?
Mhm.
Whether, it's through a ceremonial experience, through therapy, through just life, giving us one of those like, "Oh, I see it," right? But knowledge doesn't change behavior. So we can have these big transformational moments, and that's great. And it gives us a glimpse into what's possible. But then it's like the day that you get out of rehab, you don't go back to the crack dealer's house. It's like you have to start taking steps in a different direction. And they can be micro adjustments, but it's just like this one way I'm going to go left instead of right. And it's
Mhm.
little by little. And so integration to me is that slow, just kinda it's not real sexy and hot and spicy, it's just this kinda, like, grind it out and make different decisions when they are available, and it's like
Mhm.
trying to create just a little bit of space to see it differently, be different, and to kinda ask yourself, like, "If my higher self were available to me right now, what would she do?" Like, what would she have me do? Because the same mind and heart that got me into a lot of this stuff is not going to get me out. So it's like sometimes, whether that's prayer, whether that's God, whether that's your highest self, whether that's somebody you admire, like lean into that energy,
Mhm.
of like, how would they have me move and start doing that. And sometimes it's just about giving yourself 3 seconds space before you say the thing that you would normally say. And even that, even if you end up saying it anyway, it's like these micro moments of change, because the idea that we're going to just radically transform our life overnight is nonsense. And that's another form
It
of
is.
spiritual bypassing. And you hear it all the time like, oh, I did this one thing and I was forever different. It's like, yeah. I mean, I went and I did aversion therapy and I never wanted to drink again. So I'm not taking away the power of those moments. But just because I never wanted to drink again did not mean I was going to stay sober. So again, here's a tool. It's going to take away my cravings. Here's a tool. It's going to take away my weight. Here's a tool. It's going to take
Yes.
away my whatever. But it's like if you don't inherently do the work, wherever you go, there you are. And the carrot is like perpetually outside of you, like you lose 10 pounds, you need to lose 20. You get the raise, you need more money. You buy the new car, you need a nicer car. And you train yourself in your brain that you're never actually satisfied. And so, how do we like make these smaller adjustments, get comfortable, like let that become the new us and then introduce another little layer. Okay, now I'm comfortable in that. And it's like, for me, that has worked. better than anything else.
Beautifully said. That's what I was trying to say earlier. I love it. Um, it so we noticed we have the plus one theory, which is, small actions that make a big difference,
Mhm.
finishing stronger than you started sort of thing. So whenever someone, has a powerful realization, say on Monday, what are what do you think are 2 or 3 small actions they can take by Friday to make it real?
It's a great question. I mean, some of it I think is just returning to that intention every day. Write it down every morning, every night. That aha moment of like, oh, this could really help me every morning, first thing in the morning, write it down in your journal. Before you go to sleep, write it down in your journal as if it has already happened. It is a recommitment. And if you can just do that every day, whether you do it or not, at least you're training your mind and training your heart to start moving in that direction. Some of it is
Mhm.
just sheer discipline. It's like this is not easy and it sucks. And a lot of times it's not what we want to do. And it's like sometimes you just got to do it anyway. I mean, I will say my male clients tend to be better at this than women. But when you can't get it's like you have negative thoughts, right? And then the negative thoughts stop you from doing the thing. So if you want to override that system and not wait to change your thoughts, because that can be really, really difficult, then you can change your thoughts by doing the thing anyway. So we can physically move in the direction that we want to go to change the thoughts, or we can change the thoughts to try to inspire movement. So play with that as well. Like sometimes just doing the thing can actually help you get movement, get traction, and then ingrain it, make it a habit. So just sheer grit and discipline, but writing it down, sheer grit and discipline. And then again, remembering your why. When you have a deep connection to the intention underneath the thing, whether it's losing weight, drinking less, whatever it is, like really, really tune in to your why. And then like for a lot of people, it's negative consequences, which we hate. The idea
Yeah.
is bring the bottom up, right? We don't want
Yeah.
those negative consequences, but at the same time, thank God we have them if that's what causes us to shift. I have a lot of people that I work with that have pancreatitis that need to stop drinking. And when they don't, they end up in the hospital. When they don't, they wind up very sick. And again, that is the body's way of supporting us in our journey. And so it's like, don't be mad at it. It's all here to serve us. So those are some of the ways, but stay committed to your why, write it down. There are things that we know that really do help improve our life. Gratitude lists, reaching out every day to somebody, tell them why you love them, exercise, solid nutrition. Like we can be doing things to support ourselves that seem really like, oh, whatever. But it makes a huge difference.
It really does, and I love that you mentioned journaling because I'm a huge advocate for that. It's literally saved my life. Even in my book, every few chapters, I shared my raw journal notes from counseling
Mm,
every few chapters to show where I was at mentally, and you can see this where I was healing literally throughout the whole book. But
yeah.
I love journaling. We do, for quiet depletion, we do what's called a brain dump. And every night, if your mind is just so full of all these negative thoughts, everything that you have to do tomorrow, everything you didn't do today, you literally just write, even if it's one word, write it down in the journal. And for some reason, that helps me sleep. It's like it's in the journal, it's no longer here. And so now I can rest. But
Yeah.
giving my brain enough time to hopefully create a new pattern instead of a bad, a new good pattern instead of a bad pattern.
Well, it goes both ways, thank God, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
about PTSD, when something horrific happens and we can, be triggered to remember it and we're experiencing it as if it's really happening and it's a horrible, horrible thing. Well, we can do the same with good things as well. It's like go into a moment where you were really proud of yourself, relive
Yeah.
that as if it is still happening, and that's the thing. Don't just write the gratitude, feel the gratitude. Remember a moment, that was so sacred, so special. You were so alive. And it's like, feel as if you were in that moment. We have to, we have to flip the script and use these things, for good
Yes.
as well.
Yes, because
Ruminate on the good stuff.
I find that as I heal or as I find peace, for some reason, my brain wants to go to the old pattern or it I almost feel bored right? So that, um, like I'm seeking the same issues so that my brain recognizes it, the pattern, the bad pattern. So I'm wondering, do you know why that happens, or have you seen that happen before?
I think there's some school of thought that it's self-sabotage, and we could certainly
Yes.
talk about that, but then with self-sabotage, it's like you gotta get underneath. Are you afraid to really enjoy something because you're afraid you're gonna lose it? Are you afraid to enjoy it because you feel you don't deserve it? Like, there's so much nuance to why we would sabotage. Some of it I do think is old patterning,
Yeah.
like, I got into an amazing relationship and I can find myself finding something wrong, and I'm like, dude, I'll dig into your ex-girlfriends if I need to, but I'm going to find something because this can't possibly be that good. And so
Yes.
some of it too is being able to just watch yourself in your own nonsense. I do that all the time. I'm like, oh, wow, look, there's Joe being an idiot, and like trying to create something that's not there. And I kind of just have kind of a sort of playful relationship with myself because I trust myself to know, and this is important. I trust myself to know if there's something I really need to look at. And I know the difference. And so get really good at knowing if this is your intuition telling you, hey, I'm knocking on the door. You need to pay attention. This is real. And go in and seek and really give it reverence versus this is just your old story and your old saboteur and your old fear of letting yourself really be happy because it's such an um I don't want to say uncomfortable. I don't think it's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar for us. And we need to stretch our capacity to hold joy, just like we need to stretch our capacity and our tolerance to hold pain. We
Yeah.
want to get really good at holding pain, not because we want to stay in it, but because we want to be able to be in it without needing to run. We also need to stretch our capacity for joy. And that's a real thing. A lot of us don't have the capacity to hold a lot of pleasure. We hit this point where like, because it's just too
Mhm.
much. We're not used to it. I mean, even like I heard somebody talking about this once in women who can't have multiple orgasms and we're supposed to be able to.
Yeah.
Supposed to. I say that like
'Cause
our
it's all
bodies
mental.
can. Yeah. So it's like, what's your capacity even to hold pleasure? And so start stretching that, letting yourself do more things that you're doing just because you want to, not because you need to.
Yeah.
When you are having a really good day, like thanking your body, checking in, not pushing too hard, right? Like
Yeah.
not just looking for peak experiences, but like, how do I create more joy in my everyday life? I mean, one of the most fascinating studies to me is they took all these individuals who had something amazing happen or something horrific, and within about 6 months, their base point of happiness had returned. So if you win the lottery, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is amazing, right? And your
Mhm.
happiness point was here, you'll spike. Oh my God, I have all this money. But after 6 months, you're going to return to where you were. Or something awful like you lose a limb. Oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened. I'm never going to be okay. Within about 6 months, you're kind of back to where you were.
Yeah.
So it's like we just need to, again, small, incrementally, we're trying to just raise our set point while we increase our ability to tolerate discomfort. Not from a stay in abusive relationship, but the kind of discomfort that naturally just occurs in day to day living. When we can hold that and then act intentionally, not just reach for something to get us out, that's the goal.
Yeah, and if we don't stretch ourselves like that while we're in our journey, I wrote a little poem once, and it was just so everyone loved it so much because it's about climbing the mountain, right? We're just busy living life, and we're on our journey. We're climbing the mountain, and then you get to the top, expecting this wonderful thing to happen, but it's like, is this it? You feel nothing when you get to the top because you didn't take time to look around and see what was happening and choose joy all along the path.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of martial arts, and that was one of the biggest things, is enjoy the journey, not the destination.
Yes,
And so how do we really do that? And it's funny, I heard this podcast. It was Dan Bilzerian, who is like that, billionaire playboy of Vegas, right? And he's always
yeah,
doing just the most insane parties, girls like height of everything. But
I
I
can't
love that
imagine.
he talked about this. It was such a great message, especially for young men. But he was like, let me just paint you a picture. I'm on a yacht with 50 supermodels ready to have sex with me. He's like, and I'm bored. I have literally blown all of my dopamine. I cannot find joy. I've just wrecked it all. And he literally had to go and just kind of like hang out at home for a few years and reset his dopamine because he couldn't even feel pleasure anymore. And I laughed, but I was like, oh, God bless him for saying that,
Yeah.
because I think that's one of the hardest things for people. And I work with a lot of very, very successful entrepreneurs, or, a few pro athletes, or people that have made it, right? Like the
Yeah.
thing that you
They've
think is going
reached
to
the
make you
summit.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it doesn't. And that's worse than, oh, I'm trying to climb the ladder. As long as your basic needs are met, trying to climb the ladder and I just can't, because then you can still live in the illusion of maybe someday I'll be happy. But like when you achieve the thing and you still, like, I can remember I'm like 23. I'm just shot for FHM magazine. I'm hanging out, Playboy Mansion. My
Wow.
boyfriend plays for the Chargers. I live on the beach. Like life is amazing. Wrong. I just
Mhm.
like every day wanted to die. And I was like, wow, if I can't be happy now, I am so screwed. And that is like a whole different type of despair, is when you
Yeah.
realize, nah, it was always an illusion.
Yeah. And that's what I talk about a lot. It's just that you could be the most successful person in the world with all the money and the titles, whatever, and still feel empty inside, and you know what you're supposed to do. You know that you're supposed to choose joy, but you don't do it. Why? Why don't we do what we know we should do?
Yeah.
And that's because we're just so busy, doing all the things we're supposed to do instead of the things that we need to do to grow spiritually. So
Yeah.
if someone is listening right now and feels the pull to numb out, snack, eat bad foods, or drink, text the wrong person, what do you think a small step is that could interrupt that spiral today and then start on their journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was just thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Because I don't always like interrupt it perfectly, but sometimes I can really, I can intervene, pretty
Yeah,
spot
yeah.
on. And what I say is one more second. And it's kind of this cue. I have this mantra, one more second. If I can just sit here one more second without grabbing the food, without grabbing the
That's the
phone and shooting that
pause.
text. It's the
Yes.
pause. One more
Yeah.
second, just one more second. And you just start one more second. And then all of a sudden it's like, any wave of craving, of compulsion, of emotion, when you just sit in it, it's like 90-second shelf life. It really will pass when you let it move through. So it's like, if you can just hang just one more second before you do the thing and start building that muscle, because it is a muscle and you've got to practice it, and it's like you can't just
Mhm.
go to the gym and lift weights one day and be like, why am I not ripped? It's like,
Yeah.
no, you got to return mat time, like get in there and really do it. So just remember one more second.
One more second. I love that so much. It's so similar to the pause. I mean, the neuroscience of it all, too, is so interesting because it allows the frontal cortex to come back online because it's not. The lower
Yeah.
brain is in charge and it's just like the caveman, fight or flight. It's just trying to get you to get you to temporarily survive no matter what you got to do. Um, so I guess, also one more thing, and then I promise I'll let you go. But if someone's starting to understand and they're making this radical, self improvement, but they start feeling guilty or shame about it because they think it's selfish. So how does a person get around that? What do you think? How they would get around the shame?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would definitely start exploring, where did I first learn this? That
Yeah,
I'm not allowed to be a
that I'm
priority.
not worthy.
That I'm
Yeah,
not worthy and that I need to put everyone else first. I mean, that's a very, very, very early childhood belief. And so being able to try and untangle it from the root, I think, is
yeah,
powerful. And some of it too is that override system, which is, okay, so what if I don't deserve it? Let me do it anyway. You know what I mean? Like at some
Yeah.
point, if you can't get out of the story, you need to just dive totally into it. Like, here's an example. Sometimes when I have anxiety, the way I get out of it is I say, give me more. Just give me more. Bring it. Give me more. And there's
Hmm.
something about that kind of grit that's like, I'm not scared of you. Give me more. Fine. You want me to feel anxious? Bring it. Let's do it. Get it all out of the way. So it's like if you cannot untangle that shame, one thing to play with is great. I don't deserve it. Let me see what happens anyway. Because here's the thing, you intellectually understand and know, put the oxygen mask on you first. You know intellectually that you healing and you prioritizing your healing will make you a better mother, a better father, a better daughter, employee. Like your gift to the world is like very, very, very much in line with your healing. So you better is better for everyone. We know that intellectually. So there is some negative belief, some unconscious belief, some pre-programmed belief that is telling you that. And the other thing you can do is ask, whose voice is this? When you hear
Mm.
you don't deserve it, whose voice is that? You know, is it your mom's, your dad's, the kid on the playground? Who's saying that to you? Because again, truth is always true. So you can have your
Yeah.
stories and your trauma and all your nonsense, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, truth is always true and it will feel the most true in your body. And when it's like, no, my healing is for the good of all. And that is true for each and every one of us. As we heal, we bring that light, we bring that love, we stretch our capacity for joy, for
Yeah.
optimism, for hope, for faith. Everyone benefits from that. There is no one
Yeah.
that gets worse from that. So it's like, again, truth is always true. Your healing is always in the best interest of everyone. It may not be immediately. And that's the caveat, right? Because healing journeys can be exceptionally painful. And yes, people may not have your full attention. You may need to be a little bit selfish. It may get worse before it gets better. But in the long run, if you stay the course, it is better for everyone, you know?
Right. And I love that so much because there's a lot of self shaming too, especially when we don't accomplish our goals. I mean, like we keep trying over and over and over to beat an addiction, but then we go back to it. So we feel we shame ourselves. So, someone that's trying to be better, they need to give themselves a little more grace. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and it's really important to remember there is no such thing as failure until you give up. It just hasn't worked yet. It just hasn't worked yet. You're trying and it didn't work and you're trying again and you're still in the process of trying. It doesn't matter how many times you slip, you relapse, whatever. It's like as long as you continue to try, you have not failed. You just haven't healed yet. And keep going. Keep going.
And who do you hope people become? I mean, what would you like to see in a perfect world?
I really believe that everybody here has a very unique fingerprint to leave on the world. And I
Yeah.
just, whether it's through their art, their creativity, I mean, obviously, I would love it if it was all positive, magnificent, wonderful things that people are living in, you know, in the world, more compassion, more understanding, more radical self responsibility. We seem to be lacking that a lot as a society. Yeah, I would love to see a more compassionate, responsible
Yes.
self emerge, because
Yeah.
I think people are great. I think God makes no accidents. I think every single life here matters and is beautiful and has something to contribute. And so it's like, I want to know what that is,
Right.
and I want to know you're messy too. I like messy, it's like bring all of it. Y'all get to
Bring it
come.
on.
But yeah, but I do think that self-responsibility and compassion would really be a beautiful, beautiful shift.
It's so true. And I talk a lot about kindness too. People love to hate right now, and it's really sad. And so I felt really, led to speak on kindness because it's a superpower in my mind.
The best thing I ever heard around that, when I was going through my divorce, like shocker, we're not married anymore. I was so mad. And like, I had moved to Mexico and trying to get divorced in another country. It's everything that could go wrong did. And I was
Oh
so
gosh.
angry all the time. And my friend looked at me and it was really cool. And she goes, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And it's a line from the Course in Miracles. In my defenselessness, I don't need to justify. I don't need to prove. I don't need to, you got to see it my way. I don't need to manipulate. I don't need to control. In my defenselessness, my safety lies, which I'm a fighter, like a
Mhm.
martial arts fighter, I will debate you to the end of the earth fighter. I fight, fight, fight. It's my personality. And it was like, hey, stop doing that. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. And all I need to know is my truth. I need to hold my energy in a way that is dignified and respectful. I don't need anybody to see my point of view. I can speak my truth, with
Yes.
grace. And that is where my safety lies. And I try, my best to
Oh, you're
remember that.
beautiful. I thank you for your honesty and your heart. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it. This was a great one. I think there's a lot of good stuff in here, and you can listen to it over and over and get a lot of good little nuggets. And remember, one pause can change the direction of your day.